अस्सलाम वालेकुम, क्या हाल चाल है रिदा आपके?
Walaikum Assalam. I'm doing good. What about you, Asif?
I'm perfectly fine. How's your day going?
The day is going fine. It's just that, according to my schedule, that I'm sleeping a lot, almost the whole day. So for me, that I just woke up.
Nice. So your day just got started now.
Yeah, because I'm a night also. I'm, waking up whole night and then sleeping in the day.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. So, Rida, before we jump into the conversation, I would love to hear about you. I would love to hear about your introduction, your probably journey to how did you land into the product management, from where did you start, and how things are going on. So, over to you.
All right, it's a very interesting story. So I start from very much scratch
Of course.
because I'm a very passionate kind of PM. So I'll start with like how I ended up into product management.
Of course.
So actually, it started when I was very much inspired to be a psychologist, and I wanted to kind of involved into the psychology, and I just wanted to pursue that as a profession. But then I corrected myself because I see the industry and everybody around me, my friends, my family, my seniors, they were pushing me to kind of go to something where I can achieve professionally more and there's more scope to it. So, what I did, I instead of getting admitted to the, that specific curriculum, I enrolled into computer sciences. I did ICS and then I started getting good marks. So when I started getting good marks, my teachers started telling me, hey, you should get admission to the computer sciences or maybe to software engineering. I think you're good with the IT. But internally, I was like, I am not even interested in IT. I don't know why I should get admission, why these people are pushing me towards it. So it's really like a weird decision where I don't know what I'm doing. I am just doing because everybody's motivating me that there's a good scope and you can get, you can earn good and you can have a future. In terms of the professional field, it won't add much value, which I believe wasn't that much correct. But I think one thing that really has changed my decision. I was sitting with one of my teacher, and he told me, why you want to be a psychologist? And I was like, because this is my passion. So he said, do you really need to pursue your passion as your profession? And I started thinking about it like, okay, baat mein dum hai. So he said like, okay, you can continue this, like you can read books around it, you can always build your knowledge base, you can really take any sort of benefit you want to take from this your passion.
Yep.
But it's really not important. I mean, you can, if you want to really be want to get into that field, you can, definitely you can, but you need to think that you just continue something as your profession because you want to have the knowledge. And then I said like, no, I really want to get into the computer sciences. And I actually took admission to the software engineering, and I was very motivated from the first semester to kind of find out that like where do I stand, because for me it was very much okay that this is just a 4 years degree. I don't want to just sit there, go through curriculum, pass the exams, and okay, I'm going to do this. For sure, I need to get degree, but these are the 4 years, and I need to be really quickly get into the market and start building something meaningful. So for my journey is that in my head that I was very clear that I need to get into the industry as soon as possible. So I started exploring almost all the areas. Initially, I was good at coding in a few semesters. I don't know that what happened that I started losing interest because I tried almost few languages, and I for some time I did some freelancing sort of projects as well. So I was trying almost everything, whether it's a little bit of UI UX to sort of practice and see if my passion is there. I did some sort of development, but then I felt it was very boring, and I always used to have sort of visions in my head where I'm dreaming about okay, building something, a product, and thinking around all the use cases. A user might be interacting with this will add more value to a person's life, and thinking I had a very solution oriented mind. So I used to think a problem in everywhere, like if I'm sitting just randomly, I would see the problem around me, and then I start solving that problem with a solution that can be possible through tech and a software. So I was like, which field exactly belonged to that area where it's coming from me. So I was actually doing everything almost just to kind of find where my passion lies. I didn't do at that time, there is a position called product management. So I started, into project management before. I started learning into it. I started doing some sort of courses around it, that how, you manage the whole life cycle of the project, what are the responsibilities, what are the activities involved. So I started from that foundation. And then I, when I actually, get into the things, I kind of know this role. It wasn't that famous in the market at that point of the time. I mean, people were doing internationally for sure, and some of the people were doing as well. Those who were into the project management position, they were doing some product related activities, but there was not a clear line and the clear differentiation in place. So I started doing some courses and certification around it. I started learning from YouTube. At that time, there was a very famous program, APM, on the Google. So I was very motivated that I'm going to apply for it. And even though I stand nowhere, but I just started applying for those programs and started seeing their requirements and what are the qualities and what are the skill set that a person can have. What those companies are looking for. So if I need to be a product manager, okay, I know that I stand there. I actually took a quiz as well. I used to go to the Google and find those all articles and all those resources. So when I was doing that quiz, so it asked me a few questions that who are you, as in a profession, what where do you stand. So after replying to those questionnaires, it was more like a psychological exam, which gave me that response that I do not fall into the category where I think from like a product point of view and how to position it, and from the idea point of view. So I'm good fit for a product position. So after knowing that, I was very confident I'm going to do this. So I started applying always to everywhere, internationally, and started seeing what they're looking for, what responsibilities, what kind of tools they need. So I came to know about this Jira, this ClickUp, these all tools, they are in place, these skills that are required. Started learning those things from there. And then there's a very interesting story I'll tell you. Like one day randomly, at that point in time, I wasn't very active on the LinkedIn. Like I had the account, but I just saw the position on the Facebook, and there was a post section, job section of the Facebook. I'm not sure if they're still in place because I'm not using that much. But at that time, like I applied to a job, and somebody who has that stealth startup, and he was working at IBM as a PO somewhere in England. So he actually, when approached me for the interview, so he started asking me those technical questions from the development point of view. Of course, I knew the basic things. I was a SC student. So when he asked me, so I actually said to him, like, I want to discuss something with you. So he said, like, go for it. So I said, actually, I am an aspiring PM. I want to be a product manager. I know this is a graduate trainee program, and purely for the dev. Of course, I can do this, but this is not my passion. I'm not finding the relevant opportunity right now. So maybe if you have any open position in your this startup, and maybe if I can support you in any way to the product related activities, so I think we can talk about it. So he said, interesting. So he actually did my interview for the product position.
Nice.
And of course, he had a lot of experience into the PO and the product side. And I had basics with the agile principles and overall product related thinking sort of capabilities. So I started giving the response, and he was very impressed. He's like, okay, so you actually know these things. Interesting. So he hired me.
Nice.
The journey started from there. Yeah.
That's so cool. So you are probably the ideal person to ask, and that is, if you can like explain it in a very easiest way possible, and that is, what is the main difference between a project manager, a product owner, and a scrum master?
Thank you for asking me this question. The word really need to hear. I'm not sure if how much knowledge I have. As per like whatever knowledge I have, I can try to kind of differentiate between these roles, because I have been into almost all these shoes at some point of the time, and I am going to be as well. I'm sure the initiatives that I have in my mind. So I think I can try to kind of summarize all these roles in a very quick few lines. I'll start from the product manager position. So the product management is very much somebody who's taking the ownership of the product. So it is like whatever it takes to wherever you have to step in, from all the point of view, you are somebody who owns this product. Meaning owning doesn't mean that you are the CEO and you're going to make all those decisions, or you will be, kind of deciding solely. You have to be the stakeholder. You have to kind of have their buy-in, but you will be in that leading position where you have to think around like, this is the problem. This is my user's problem. Now I have to validate this is the actual problem or not. You're at the side, you are at the solution side. You have to define. You have to take help from designer. You have to take engineering solutions. You have to come. You have to go to all the people in the team and involve them. It's not that you are the leading and you're going to make decision. You have to kind of facilitate those brainstorming sessions, and then from those that discussions, you have to build a consensus like what to build, and all those thought processes, all those ideas, all those like that everybody have take from those unique perspective, validation, putting some market research, competitive research, doing all those activities, and then going to stakeholders and having their buy-in on the roadmap that this is I'm going to build, and this goes to the market, and maybe if you're more involved to the finance side and the profitability and kind of defining the business model, so you will be directly responsible for the success of the failure. That is in the simplest words, if I say the definition of who is the product manager. So in contrast, we have seen the project management position sometimes being very much overlapped with this product manager position. So if I can differentiate you that, what the difference between the project manager and the product manager. So in a project management position, that can be in a product-based company, also in a services-based startup. A project manager is somebody who can, who's responsible for the delivery. Like there's a product that you need to kind of design it, you have to engineer it, you have to do the quality assurance, maybe you have to sort of perform any sort of other activities related to the maybe marketing or something. So whatever from that, there will be a kind of duration to it. When we say there's a triangle which has a scope, which has a timeline, which has the budget, so the PM stands there that has to kind of balance everything. There's a certain scope, there will be a certain timeline to it, then there will be a certain budget to it. So a PM has to ensure that all the activities, whether it's a managing task on a tool or whether it's managing the teams or whether it's a stakeholder communication or writing any sort of documentations or any sort of activities, the major responsibility that you have to ensure that every project you're doing should have a certain timeline, should scope and certain budget, and everything should stand there, like that should be balanced. If you're doing a project, but client, maybe if you're working with a any services based company and you have a client and he's adding new requirements every second day, the scope is not stable, then your budget is not going to be stable, your timeline is not going to be stable. Then who is somebody who's going to take care of it? Because your UI UX person is busy on designing things, your dev is busy on engineering that. So somebody needs to take the responsibility and ownership of owning that. You are responsible for the delivery. So I will say that PM, the project manager, is majorly focused on the delivery side, not that like what we need to build. Okay, how we need to build, more around the kind of how we're going to approach the solution and how we'll be kind of more like structuring the process, but not like why and what. The why and what stands for the product manager. Sometimes people are doing both jobs at the same time, they don't and they don't know as well. And usually happens, you have to wear multiple hats. And even in the larger enterprises, in a lot of places the roles is kind of there's not clear things are in practices where you can say that you're a project manager, whether you're a product manager. So we'll come to now the product owner and the scrum master. So in that they both role come clearly in the agile environment. So if there's an agile implementation in place, we talk about the project manager, product manager. They can be in agile, they can be in the traditional waterfall, they can be in anywhere. There's no hard and fast rule that there should be a framework to it. But when we're talking about agile and there's a proper scrum in place, then the roles are going to have a very dedicated titles. Or maybe if there's a product manager already, then the PO has a very clear responsibility. SM has a very clear responsibility. You can never say that SM is a PM. SM can never be PM. PO can never be a product manager. Maybe he'll be doing some activities, but he has a very clear responsibilities. So we'll move to the PO role. Somebody who has, there's a backlog. We have a certain artifact ceremonies. In Agile, the process is very clear and the structure. There's no confusion to it. So there's a product backlog that's been divided to the sprint backlog. The PO is prioritizing that. But where these all requirements are coming from? Somebody has to take the ownership, go to the stakeholders, maybe facilitate some workshops, maybe do some activities to kind of build those requirements and what we need to deliver and when to deliver. So somebody who is more focused on the product side, maybe he or she is performing some more research on it and doing some more activities to the role, but the major responsibility of the product owner is the kind of the delivery of the product, and with that, ownership of the product, which falls in some areas into the product management position. So maybe some companies who are totally purely working in an agile model, so they have the product manager who's working as a PU, which means they are purely product managers and they have the responsibility of running this agile process and work in Scrum model where they're building the whole product backlog, they're running the sprints, they're writing the user stories in a proper format, they're adding the acceptance criteria to it, there's a further DODs and the other stuff that they have to ensure. We'll come to the SM. Now we talk about a product owner position, but what a Scrum Master is doing. So Scrum Master is somebody who has to ensure that we're adhering to the agile principles, we're following that structure process in a certain way. If there's any impediment that a team is facing, your PO is too focused on the requirement side and ensuring that your stakeholders is aligned to what we're delivering. If there's any change coming, we're kind of prepared for it, our backlog is prepared for it. So your PO is totally fighting with the stakeholder side. Somebody who has to kind of juggle that with the daily activities with your development team and ensure that any impediment is coming, any cross-functional collaboration that needs to be in place, your AM has to do that. So the team enablement work, like where you have to kind of motivate team, where you have to see their skill set, somebody who's falling behind, you need to kind of speed up things, you have to improve the velocity, you have to push people. So that role is totally focused, that's a people-oriented role, and that's totally focused on kind of getting things done in a certain way and improving your team's performance. So sometimes this role is now in the industry, there's a lot of changes happening, and I think it was always happening. Some people are saying that SM role is going, PO role is going, or maybe this product manager is role going. So it's not really like that. It's totally depend on your organization, what processes you are following, what activities you are doing, what kind of projects you are working. So all those roles, like which positions, which title they have, that depends on that. Other than that, maybe the responsibilities can be more than one role. So the SM is sometimes people say that they are just scheduling the meetings. I have been in that shoes as well. So I'm more empathizing within you when I'm talking about a Scrum Master position. Scrum Masters are not the project managers. Not they are either product owners or not they're the product managers. They are somebody, so most of the time they work are invisible. Because it's very easy being a product manager to kind of come up with the data, maybe come up with a backlog or research and kind of present that you're doing this. Being a project manager, it's very easy to come up with your responsibilities and all the activities you're doing. Being a PO, you have a clear list of the backlog, you have a clear list of the responsibilities to kind of defend yourself where you're adding value. Being SM, sometimes it's very difficult to make it visible that what value you're adding, and mostly they are adding on the behind. It's not that visible to the stakeholder. It's not that kind of there's no kind of interface to it. So that is something challenge within the industry that people don't see a lot of value. But when things are at the time, delivers are at the time, things are moving faster. Your team is improving. Your team's morale is high. So that things, seeing those things, like when we say the coach never plays. Why we're keeping the coach? He is seeing from that, and why my team is behaving in a certain way. If there is any internal conflicts, maybe there's any injury, maybe there's any performance issues, why this is happening, if there's any emotional baggage. So all that roster, deciding that who will play, will not play, what he needs to do, all these strategies, somebody has to kind of sit in that position to observe from that external eye, and then kind of motivate people and improve things. So yeah, this role is a little bit different than this position and more a people oriented position.
Makes sense. Makes sense. But since the visibility is not really a thing for the Scrum Masters, so is this value, like, is this the role that is undervalued or something?
The problem is that totally depend on the perspective. So maybe if your stakeholders have that perspective that they just value something which is visible, all these things that are documented, then I can actually say that the SM approach can be a little bit different to kind of document things, or maybe kind of make it more visible. But that cannot happen every time. So the perspective also does matter. When people say that they don't see it is like adding more value or something, it's also that the perspective is very narrowed. So but it adds a lot of value. Those who people understand, they see that when things are not that visible, but there's a I can tell about my story. Like I have spent like 2 to 3 hours in the sessions as well when I'm sitting with the team and understanding their challenges. I have done those sessions with the people where they are, and there's a lot of data that's coming from that. If your team is falling behind, and if you're saying the performance issue, but who is addressing those issues? Who's listening to those problems? Maybe in those 3 hours, the things I have heard, all of those things were not really the matter of the concern. But what we're driving from them, somebody who's listening all that and then taking those notes and clarifying those things, and going to those stakeholders and maybe trying to fix those problems and understanding the culture and trying to fix these things so that the team's velocity is not impacting, so it's improving. So a lot of the time, I think SM can ensure to kind of make it more visible, but it's around a culture. If culture is not that supportive and it's always about showing things, more showers and less doers, that it becomes really hard for SM to support those teams, and it's very demotivating for them as well. But if somebody you go to the culture where people kind of support you for the work you're doing, and it doesn't need to be visible every time, but it should prove. You can see the difference. If you can see the difference, then of course, this role is but this role is very important generally. Like in my opinion, I have been into the different positions. I've tried on almost everything what we're discussing, and the maximum work like I have done, and the maximum if I speak like where I have to put my energies and where I have to be more kind of proactive was this position. Because you have to continuously struggle to find the where what is the problem behind what's happening, and then try to fix that. And when it's come to people, it's more challenging. So yeah.
Makes sense. So from the point of understanding the responsibilities of the product people, I would love to hear about how does their day look like? Like how does the day in the life of a product manager looks like?
My day is totally weird. If you ask me a product manager day, I don't know how does that look like. But if you're asking about my day, it's a very weird.
Yeah, it will work. It will work.
I'm not a very structured product manager, but usually, like, how do I start? I'm not sure which schedule do I need to share, but usually, yeah, when I wake up, usually my calls are kind of scheduled before, and I try to follow the Scrum process mostly, or maybe I work in Kanban way. So there's already sort of daily hurdles and sometimes sprint plannings and the reviews or retrospectives. Those are already in place. So first of all, that I wake up with my daily stand-ups calls. So I try to kind of avoid, like, I'll put an alarm on 10, and then I'll put again another alarm on 10:45. Just kind of I can be on the time in the meeting at 11. And usually these days I'm working remotely, so that's why I'm being more lazy. But of course, when you're on site, so things are a little bit different. So when I kind of do my hurdles, after that I go and check my email. First thing, I really need to know that what's happening, if there's any new initiative, if there's a follow-up, if there's any new message on the Slack. So I try to kind of go and check all my, any sort of communication and the collaboration channels I have. Then I go to my tool, and I have always the list prepared for what I need to do. I mean, I believe this is a really good practice, no matter if you're a project manager or a product manager and you are managing people, but you should always have that list prepared, and should be some sort of accountability to as well, like what you are doing and who are involved into that. So I like to prepare that list, and I like to go and see what's the top priority today. So if I have, maybe one priority or two priority a day, or maybe three priorities. So according to the priorities, I like to pick some work on that, and then I like to kind of, execute that on the day. Sometimes I am usually working on the product roadmap. Maybe there's any stakeholder meetings in place, so I like to attend that. If there's any new changes that I need to make to the product roadmap, then I add it, and then I have to connect with the team as well. Sometimes the things are I like to keep things very scheduled. So when I have to meet with the team, I try to communicate that these are new requirements coming in. We have to accommodate. There's R&D we need to take, into the place. That's work we need to, and so usually it's not the similar every time, because some days I'm doing the process improvements call, where I am kind of looking into the organizational process improvement. Some days I'm catching up with the UI UX designer and saying, these new features are coming, we need to prepare for the design. Some days I'm totally focused on the market research. So I'm building PRDs, and I'm sometimes writing user stories and the use cases. So it just every day I like to kind of create that list where, like, today I have to deliver this. I have to, maybe on the Thursdays, I have to do that weekly report. So that this is my priority. I have to go to the stakeholders call and present my work. This is my priority. Today, I have to do sprint planning. So I have to ensure that my, list of my backlog is already prepared. So before than that. So things are kind of sometimes very structured, that I know that this is the weekly already scheduled calls. I have that before then, that I need to prepare this. Sometimes it just randomly, like maybe a stakeholder call came and they said, like, we need to change the positioning of the product, we need to change the direction, so we need to put some more R&D into it. Maybe we have to start this feature. So I'll be like managing things parallelly. So sometimes there's a chaos as well. I'm sure you're very familiar with that, like when there's a release going on.
Yeah.
So I'm a very clever person in that case. Like, not clever, I'm a very lazy person in that case. I like to plan my releases on Thursday.
Yeah, that's good.
Ask me why.
Yeah, but I mean, it gives you that buffer time. If something goes off and you're like, oh man, no, our weekends are in the chaos. So people don't want to, like, probably hurt their weekends. So yeah, midweek will work just. In the ideal perspective, I think midweek is something that is very ideal for the releases, instead
Yeah.
of Friday nights, just to save your weekends. Yeah. So
Yeah, you got it.
yeah.
So,
Cool. So
yeah, sometimes,
yeah, please.
I don't know.
Cool. So coming from the life of a product manager, since you are working remotely, right? So I would love to hear your perspective on, or maybe a roadmap. I won't mind. Like, how do people can find or land on a remote opportunity? Because I believe where we are in, it's very hard to actually get the remote opportunities, specifically in this region. Even if we have to, like, um, look for international opportunities that are remote, I believe they are very limited. So what's your roadmap, or maybe a blueprint for the people who are looking for the remote roles?
Thank you, Asad, for asking me this question. I think it's a very important question. A few people in the industry have asked me that as well. Like, what actually are your recipe for winning any remote opportunities? Because there's a big difference between working on the on-site and remotely. So one thing I always say to them, whether you're working on-site or whether you're working remotely, there's a responsibility, and there's a sense of responsibility that you should always have, no matter if you are in office and you have to kind of deliver something. You have to be on time, you have to punctual, whether you're working remotely, you have to deliver something, you have to deliver something. There's no benefit to it that if you're working remotely, you'll have more hours to sleep, or maybe you'll spend more time with your family. And no, it's not like that. If you're working 8 hours, you should have a clear list of responsibilities that you are going to work 8 hours like that. So if you want to land, I would say that focus on your collaboration tools a lot, because in the remote environment you need it more. Like when I was working on site, it's become very easier to kind of maybe go randomly, and if I have any query to any of my colleague, I can just go and simply catch up with them and have a discussion in place. I don't need to really book my calendars and see things and all that. But when you're working remotely, you really don't know if they are available at this time, and how things will be moving forward. So you'll always have a clear list of the collaboration tools that you're going to use, and when you're going to the interviews, always mention that, or when they'll ask you some question, or maybe in your resume, mention that like, do you have any experience with that? Even if in on-site, how you're ensuring that you're doing collaboration with the people. So first thing that always have the that mechanism in place to be active on your whether you're Slack or something, use it for the communication. Be active there, be attentive there, and always timely respond to your emails. You should have clear calendar that what calls you have, it should be on your calendar, what activities you're doing. I really don't want you to kind of be in that situation where you're breaking down everything and all those lists are placed there. Maybe in the next 10 minutes I will be doing this. Don't do that. But on the high level, generally you should be able to kind of make things visible, like for the 8 hours what you'll be doing. Like if I am spending 2 hours on the backlog, I think it just take a few minutes to kind of add that I will be working on the backlog preparation. So if there's anything that people cannot bother you in that time, you need to kind of specify that. And I think it's a good habit to make it clear, like when you have a call with somebody else, so people know, okay, you're busy at this time, and then you can define your slots when you're free. So if somebody is reaching out to you, they know exactly what your slots when you're busy and when you're free, so that they can collaborate with you accordingly. So it's very important to kind of follow some project management practices to your own self as well, which I think people do some sort of they do lack somewhere. So I always kind of encourage them to follow those practices. They will make a good work habits for you, and it will be visible to the people who will be hiring you, and you will be kind of giving the responses, so they will know how disciplined and structured you are. And that's the only thing, because I'm sure you're a very good and technical person if you are being shortlisted for any job position. But the another thing they want to see when they're hiring somebody remotely, that somebody who has a very clear and disciplined approach towards managing their work, managing their tasks, managing their responsibility, and they're very responsive. So that is something I would say that it's very useful. It helped me a lot in some ways. I'm sure if other people are using it, it will help them as well.
Of course. So that's a very great insight, that visibility is, even if you are working remote, even if you are invisible, the visibility is still very important. That whenever you are going to be doing something, just let your team know that I'll be doing this probably for the next 2 to 3 hours,
Yeah.
whatever.
Also, one thing more to kind of, I'm not sure about other roles, but if you're into the product or PM kind of position, so make sure to kind of have the enablement sessions. Like it means that kind of have those workshops in place, facilitation sessions where you are more interacting with other team as well. No? Like if I talk about myself, I have a certain team members with like whom I'm working regularly, but there will be few people with whom I will have no interaction maybe for months, maybe once in a month. So kind of involve into those sessions where you can interact with them, or maybe as a PM you can organize by yourself, or kind of find the ways to have their input as well. That is something also very useful. So it also shows that you are not really isolating yourself from the world. You want to involve everybody, and you want to keep them in the loop. And even if there's nothing, literally, that is something like if there's any team where you don't have any interaction in place, it shows that what kind of culture you want to build.
Makes
So
sense.
add that as well.
Perfect. If we take one step back, like how do people find the remote opportunities, and what is the best way to apply for it?
I think these days there's a lot of good sources for finding the remote opportunity, especially on the LinkedIn. You can find. I used to find it on Indeed.com as well. I think that's also a good place to kind of do for the job hunting. Other than that, it depends on the market where you're targeting in. So for any like international opportunities, for any specific market, there's a great platform out there in the market. But the one platform that has really helped me a lot, that is the LinkedIn. That's the first one. People say that they get jobs through referrals or through the network. That's definitely something I believe. I have seen a lot of value from that. I've seen people getting a lot of opportunity from there. I always motivate people to kind of follow that certain networking sessions. Like if you're finding opportunities in a product related environment, go for those sessions. Go for those meetups that is specific to the product related meetups. Where people are doing activities where you can meet a lot of product managers. There are 1,000 opportunities. So by either remote or on-site, they can help you in that way. Also, there's a lot of online workshops as well, online sessions, online that what to call that, where you can connect with the like-minded professionals, where you can talk about the specific domain related topics. So always, if you're looking purely remote based opportunities, I will really kind of suggest you to follow that, because that's where you meet a lot of people from the different countries and the different companies, and you can kind of find the remote opportunities. But the LinkedIn should be your top choice. Add your filters there, by your location, and I would suggest one thing as well. I think mostly people what they do, they kind of limit themselves to, when they're finding remote opportunities, to a specific country. Like if I'm finding into the UK, I'll say like I'm gonna search jobs in the UK. That method doesn't work for me. I think that's where a point comes, like if you have to be on set there for finding even remote opportunity. So I would suggest to kind of find the remote opportunities that people from the maybe clients from the US, UK, or GC, or from any other places looking purely in the Pakistan, because that's specified that they are looking to hire people from the Pakistan. So they specify that remote as well. So maybe you can try that. And there's always a thing mentioned as remote when you add those filters. So be open to that and keep applying and keep adding those people, especially like if Asad, I know you, like maybe you're working at a company who has the remote operations. So I can try to connect with you and maybe send you a message that maybe if you find something relevant, please let me know. So it's always better to kind of connect with those people, those HRs, those companies, and the people from specific to those companies who are already working in the relevant industry and the market you are targeting in, so they can help you out.
Perfect.
And it totally depends on how do you approach people and what's your attitude towards that, when you're doing job hunting. So that matters a lot.
Perfect. एक सेकेंड मैं चेक करूँ रिकॉर्डिंग भी चल रही है. यस ठीक है. मैं ऑडियो चेक कर रहा था बिकॉज ऑडियो का लाइक ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम.
Yeah, no worries on that.
Perfect. Okay, so speaking of the opportunities, I believe there's a concept in the corporate, and that is women in tech, or probably women in the corporate. So, being again a woman in the corporate and the tech, what do you think about the women who actually contribute into the companies? How do they get opportunities? What challenges do they face? How can they like take care of all those challenges and focus on what they are doing so that they can perform like much better? And I believe they are way more productive than probably the other genders, but still, like I just need some insider information. Like, how do you feel, or what do you think about this?
All right, Asit, to answer your question, to be honest, in my experience, I haven't seen any challenge specific to the, if I am a girl or if I'm a woman, so maybe I'm subjected to something. I haven't seen that happening a lot in industry at all. Yeah, in some cases there's a gender biasness. Of course, it happens. And the only solution I always advise to the young girls, like who ask me any relevant questions, or maybe my colleagues, that if they are in a similar situation where they felt like maybe people are trying to corner them, especially male colleagues, or maybe they are not getting the good opportunities with projects, they're not getting the same perks as the male colleagues are getting. So I always kind of give them one advice, that you have to believe in yourself. You have to do your best, and you don't need to think that you are lower than anybody, or maybe your ability is lower than anybody. And if anybody who's doing this to you, confront them. I have done a lot of confrontation in my experience, literally, and I have been now, for that. Like, I am a very strong-headed woman. If I feel there's any injustice, if there's in any situation things are not happening, in a good manner, I will be the first one to raise voice on that. I will do no care that if my line manager is a male, and if I report something and there will something happen bad to me, I don't care about it, because if you're good enough, you have thousand opportunities. And you shouldn't care about it at all. Like, if I have to make switch, what people think, yeah, she's making switches, all these thoughts come, and I don't want to make switch because this will happen, that will happen, I don't know the next environment. You never know. No. So it's always, you have to see where do you stand. If you're happy with it, if you're happy with your compromises, then this is your life. You don't need to make any sort of complaints about it. If you're not happy, you have to do something about it. And don't think that what will come next, because you haven't seen it. It will always be good to have a strong faith. So first advice that I will always give, that in whatever industry you are in, whatever position you are in, whether you are into the product management or UI UX, or whether you are doing the development or coding, no matter people are saying that girls can never be a good developers or good coders. This is just a thing that people say. Like, I have seen so many amazing women who are technically so sounded. I have seen people, some males who are really good at graphics designing. So there's no, I don't know why people say that if you are this gender, you fall into that field, you're more good into the leadership positions or in that categories. It's really not. If you have a certain passion and you are good at something you're doing, these things doesn't matter. And if you see that sort of environment, you need to switch your job. Simple advice. Don't be in that toxic environment and don't doubt yourself. You're more than what people think. And you just have to believe in yourself. That's the formula for myself.
Perfect. So since now we pretty much dived into a very serious conversation, now it's time to spice things a bit. And I have like a few questions to ask. That's very subjective, but if you want to, if you could be in a position to ban a buzzword, what it would be?
I think I have heard this buzzword a lot in the agile settings, and a lot of Scrum masters use that. Let's create synergy. I don't know why they use it,
Yeah.
and I've never used it. I have been some. I've never used it. Like I will actually talk about, okay, let's do this. I'll get to the point. Hey team, let's improve synergy. Let's get synced. And I don't know, most of the time they use a certain terminologies which makes no sense. So why we can talk? I'm a very straightforward person, so I always like, why would we cannot give a direct feedback or tell them like this is missing, so they can work on that.
True.
Yeah.
True. That makes sense. Yeah. And one thing that I wanted to ask is again, since product managers or project managers use a lot of tools, what is the name of the tool, or what could be the tool that you hate the most but you still have to use it?
In generally, I hate the, it's a very weird when you're a PM by yourself and you're saying that you hate project management tools. But that's the fact. Like I think nobody likes it. Like even because we're into the certain profession and we have to follow it, and we have to make sure that other people are following it, so we kind of can create the visibility and can make sure that things are in track. And of course our whole work is dependent on those tools and automating the workflows and everything. But if somebody asks me to kind of daily update my tickets, write a lot of tickets, I hate in general. Like I love Jira, but I love Jira when it's used for collaboration, for things, not for I need to create this screen, I'm gonna add ticket. And when people demand this, like when they actually kind of create that environment, when they like micromanagement or they like push for every. I have seen those things like where people have those internal tools in place, and you are like for everything you're tracking the time and you're adding tickets for every little thing. I like when I'm working with my team, when I encourage them to create the backlog or I task, and when they come to me, they say like, "Hey Rida, can you please add these 3 tasks just because I completed some technical things and that involve and add to the estimation." So and I literally stop them. I call them and I say them like, "Why you want me to add this task? Because you have worked on it. Of course I know it. Of course I know that you're working on something." So I have been against this culture of that creating tickets, show visibility. So the perspective of these tools, I hate that. I don't hate any tool specifically. I'm sure that you'll ask if to somebody who's not from PM side, they will say they hate it. They hate it because the PMs have had this perspective of micromanagement or maybe creating tickets to just to sort of show the visibility, and if they have those stakeholders of pushing those PMs. So if I talk about the perspectives, maybe if somebody's working on something for the 3 days and they need to work on that 3 days, you don't need to be 30 tickets for it. There's a one ticket enough just to kind of that it's helping them in sort of collaboration. So I like when some tools is being misused and we're not utilizing it according to the purpose. The purpose of those tools are collaborations, PM tools are the collaborations, but instead we're using it for the micromanagement.
Makes sense.
So, yeah.
Makes sense. If your job was a meme, what it would be?
If my job was a meme, I don't really follow a lot of memes. I don't know what to say. I think I want people to answer this because I really don't remember. Maybe you can tell me. I think you can tell me. You had my like the whole podcast and you're asking me a lot of questions. You're the better person to assign me a meme. Where do I stand?
I have one in mind. So there is a Paresh Rawal in Indian actor in the movie. I guess Chupke Chupke ya Chup Chupke is something like this. And whenever the landlord asks like, ये काम किसको आता है? He runs towards him and is like, मेरे को आता है, मैं सिखा दूंगा इसको. The PMs are supposed to be doing everything that they could. So मेरे को तो वो आ रही है कि हाँ मुझे सब आता है, मैं सिखा दूंगा. So yeah.
Yeah, it happened. it happens that they are like, I think I'm missing the name, Nana Patekar or something, who was like somebody with the glasses. I'm forgetting the actor, but yeah, I remember that
Yeah.
somebody who go there and say like, I will do this, I will do this.
Yeah, completely makes sense. Good, good. So before we wrap this up, there are a lot of people who are actually looking for a job. Although you have like mentioned a lot of things within the conversation, but if you could give a simplest way of advice, or a simplest or shortest probably line of advice for the people who are actually looking for the opportunities. Maybe they are laid off, maybe they are now graduating and they are looking for the opportunities in their domain. So what's your like take on that? I would love to hear the advice that you got for them.
All right. So I think one simple advice that has always worked for me is know your portfolio. Like the previous projects you have worked on, previous companies you have been associated with, and try to find like what unique you have you're going to bring to the table. Because there will be like 1,000 candidates, maybe 100, maybe 10, or maybe 5. So you need to kind of target the opportunity which has been made for you. You don't need to apply to the 1,000 jobs. That's the people mistake too, that they just create one resume and then they easy apply, and they're just putting their resume to everywhere, but they're not really being tailoring their resume according to a specific job, or maybe they're not preparing for the interview according to the way they should. So you need to find, okay, this is what I have done, this is in my portfolio, this is my strength, this is where I'm good at. And when you're applying for something, you should always target the opportunity which is more similar to your previous experience. Because if you have to step into the hiring manager shoe, if they're hiring for somebody, let's suppose I'm hiring for somebody, I have a job description, I have mentioned that I need these tools, and there is a resume coming which has a 360, different experience. How would I shortlist the people? Because I need to, if I need, for example, if I want somebody to work on an IoT product, and I'm hiring somebody to take responsibility of it, and somebody has that already in their portfolio and that's in their resume, and they mentioned very carefully that how they were assigned to that project, what value they have added. So it's always important to work on your portfolio, no matter if you're a PM. Some very early PM have seen that mistake in their resume as well. But what they do, they kind of just mention the responsibilities. That's not what a hiring manager is looking for. You need to kind of add what value you have added, maybe a certain process improvement by a certain percentage. What projects you took, what initiative you took, what you have done differently when you were in that role. So it can show clearly that, okay, this person is more than just adding the tickets, creating the tickets, scheduling the calls, being in the calls. They can actually do something different or add value. So focus on that unique skill set. Relevant. First point is relevant experience, relevant portfolio, relevant project. Second is your core strengths, your skills. Third one is your unique skills. Because maybe you will have the relevant skills, but sometimes it's always better that you're meeting 80% of their requirements, but you have something already. Like if I talk about myself, if I'm applying for the product management opportunities, I'm sure I must have something in relevant portfolio or the skills that they're looking for. But I do have experience with the Scrum as well. I have worked as a Scrum master as well. So this is the plus point I'm bringing to that position. So I can mention that in my resume. I can try to add that into in my interviews, that maybe if I come here, I will try to improve the processes. I'll deliver the product in a certain way, but things will be more structured. I will make things more agile. So it will be kind of always when you are targeting a certain positions. So for that, where you need to apply, maybe if you have if you're going to apply to the 20 positions you've shortlisted, if those are irrelevant and two are relevant, make sure to prepare a good cover letter, go to your resume, set your resume, apply, message the hiring manager, talk to them that you are really interested in this position, go to the interview. I'm sure you will get shortlisted if the position is, if the experience is relevant. Then when you get into the interview, present yourself really well. In the 2 minutes or the 3 minutes, you should be able to tell the story, and the story should be interesting enough that the people are really hooked up to that. So you should be able to explain that, okay, where I'm coming from, why I get into it, what made me unique, what made me best for the upcoming role, what strengths I have. So all that, where, and always be realistic. Very important. I did this myself for so many times. And of course, I'm sure I want to be a head of product right now. I want to be a director of product as well, but I don't stand there. It's very interesting to see where you are standing right now. What's your experience? What's your portfolio? What's your skill set? And what are you applying for? So maybe some people are more targeting enterprises, but they're fit for the startups. Some people, they do have more experience with the enterprises. So you have to see like where, I want to go, but do I have everything, like I'm ready to go there? So I think realistic mindset really helps too, and it's not that difficult, I would say. Be motivated, keep on applying, have the positive mindset, believe in yourself, be very confident in your interview. You're starting an interview because you already have everything that they they wanted to have.
Mhm.
They just, you're one step ahead. They're just having a discussion with you. It's not an interview. Don't take it as an interview. Just think of it as a discussion, because they're evaluating you. You're going to evaluate them as well.
Mhm.
I have two people doing this mistake. They're excellent. They're excellent. Their resume is excellent. Their experience is excellent.
Mhm.
But when they do the interview, they just think that people are going to ask them the question and they're going to answer it. No.
Yeah.
You need to go. You need to research the company. You need to research the position. Ask them which project you'll be working on.
Mhm.
What's the company's culture? Who'll be your hiring manager? Ask them about a lot of things that you have in your head. So make sure, if you get hired there and you have to work there, how are you going to work there? If you're not aligned to their culture, their ways of working. So you need to be kind of very much invested into that.
Mhm.
And in two ways, just think of it as discussion, that if they are evaluating you, if you'll be good fit or not, you need to evaluate them as well, that if they'll be good fit or not.
Mhm.
So it should be two way. It shouldn't be just that I need to just get the job. If I'm sure that everybody who applying for that, I'd always try to apply for the relevant job positions. I once there was a time I was also hiring for a position. So when I was in Asia, was sending the resume. I've seen that a lot of irrelevant people, like a marketing person, will be applying for the PM position,
Mhm.
with no PM experience. So it's always better that apply to the relevant position, and if you have the mind of the changing the job in any point of the time, it's best idea to kind of connect with those professionals, share that you want to switch,
Mhm.
and then you kind of find the ways, build those strategies around like how you need to kind of land to that specific position, but directly applying with the marketing CV to PM position will make no sense to it.
Makes sense. So I
Yeah.
have like two ambiguities. One could be very short and one could be like have a little detail in it. Um, the thing that is very short is probably there are a lot within the startup. Before launching a successful product, right? There are a lot of product that failed even before the launch, or maybe company changed their mind that we are not going to push this product in the public, right? And it could be like a lot of them.
Mm.
So there is not probably a measurable impact, right? When we talk about the impact, or employers want what impact did you make in your previous experiences, right? So if there is not a measurable impact, for example, you have saved a time on onboarding probably from before you it would have take like 2.5 minutes or 2 minutes 30 seconds. After you came in, it now it takes around probably 1 minute or 1.5 minutes or 90 seconds, right? So you actually um, made the friction less for the users, plus you actually saved their times and you made the process much easier. So that's a measurable impact. But if your product is not live, like if you have worked on probably 3 to 4 products in your previous startup and none of them is live, so you don't have a measurable impact, although you have the processes and all, but you don't have the measurable impact. So how did you translate that in your resume to actually convey that you actually created an impact? It could be not measurable, but it's still an impact. So how would you convey it to the employers?
All right. So I think you're more referring to the case where things are not that visible, and you want to add that into your resume. Like, okay, how did you added a lot of value? So it's not always kind of if you talk about the product setting. So maybe if the product wasn't launched, okay, we'll talk that product is not launched. So there is no KPI to the acquisition or retention, and how what you have improved.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about you were managing the processes for the delivery, I'm sure. If you were working as somewhere in the project management capacity as well, did you mention that, like, what processes you were using and how it saved the time? Did you mention that, like, exactly any sort of principles that you used into the for UI UX, or maybe working with those teams, exactly what directions you set that has improved your user experience? Did you perform any sort of A/B testing on that platform? If yes, what did you, when you were doing the requirement gatherings, there was any challenges with the stakeholder that you improved in a certain way with a certain process, conflict, any negotiations you have done, and how it actually improved and helped your product in shaping and refining those requirements. So there's a lot of things, it's not always about something has been launched and we're meaning the result from that. During the process, you have been involved, from there must be communication happening with the design and the engineering. There could be a lot of conflicts. Designer want things in a certain way. Your developer is saying that, okay, we have those technical constraints. We cannot develop in this that way. So how did you play your part to kind of facilitate those discussions, improve that there's a communication between the engineering and the design, and with those certain problems, you have ensured that the teams are efficient. They are kind of aligned to that. They're synced to that. So it's not really that maybe some people are looking for somebody who has experience with the product launches. If you have that experience with the product launches in your portfolio, this is not the end of the world. I'm sure you will find a lot of opportunities where people will be ready to welcome you because you're excellent at building roadmaps, you're excellent at stakeholder collaboration, you're excellent at managing teams, you're excellent at initiating the processes. they'll be okay to kind of give you opportunity so you can launch the product in the market.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, cool. So that's it from my side as well. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm really glad that you are actually having this series of the podcast, and I'm following as well with other people that there's a lot of industry experts that you are having the podcast, and looking forward to them. And I'm sure that that will add a lot of value to the people who are following you, and who will be listening to you. Thank you for doing this. We really need that in industry, and we need to hear from people from their experiences, and especially those aspiring PMs or aspiring anybody who's coming to maybe dev side or UI side or maybe any area. So they need to kind of hear the stories and the struggles and how did they ended up into the certain field, and what ideation they have in their head, and as a professional, what are their challenges, and so they need to kind of get that confidence. It's very important. So I'm glad that you're doing this, and thank you for having me. It was lovely to I think talking with you, and I'm sure when I will run any sort of podcast series, I will invite you as well.
Yeah, I would love to be on it. And thank you so much for your time, for taking the time out, sharing your insight and information that could be very invaluable for people. And yeah, I'm really grateful. Thank you so much, Rida, for your time.
Thank you for having me. Take care of yourself. Thank you for today.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Sid.
Bye bye.